Okay. Okay, so it's what, March? It's March 2022. And did you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Joyce Elaine Bakley Swafford Higgins.
Joyce Elaine.
Bakley Swafford Higgins.
Are those three? Is that three different last names?
Yep. Two different.
What's your
My
born
maiden
name?
name was Joyce Elaine Bakley.
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 And
And that's all happened then. Okay.
can you describe where you're born, or where were you born?
Yes, I was born in South Jersey, Egg Harbor, and we moved to a little town called Hertford when I was 13. And then World War II was really, my brother had just
Yeah. Okay. So you had siblings.
Signed up to go in the service. It was Armistice Day on 1942. It's 11/11. 1942 was Armistice Day. It's called something else now. And my
So
brother,
you're saying your older brother, maybe?
my oldest brother was 18, and he we joined or signed up to go into the army.
Where did you have to
With a
go?
group from Woodbury. It was a whole bunch of teenagers. Well, we had in our area, we had 3 searchlight crews with 8 soldiers in each barracks. One was sort of close to us, and
And how did this affect your life, though? Your brother going to the military.
well, that was hard because he died later. He was killed later. But
He was killed in the war.
Yes, he was. He was 21.
Oh wow! What country was he in?
Europe. My other brother was next to him was stationed in Germany, and he was a medic. My brother was a scout.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
Well, I had two brothers, then me, and 2 brothers, and then 8 years later, my sister was born.
So
all 4 of my brothers were in service somewhere at different times. I had one, Wally and Larry were in World War II and were in Europe. And this is before I met my husband. And that's what I was leading up to. How I met him, it was because my future husband, and all this happened that I got saved. Well, let me tell you how. First, I was raised in a Lutheran church in Egg Harbor, New Jersey.
that's a beach town, maybe?
No, Egg Harbor, no,
It's a harbor.
It's between Atlantic City and the Delaware, okay?
Okay. What was it like? What was it like? That's like what about you're talking?
We were raised in the Depression.
So you're very poor.
Oh, we always were poor. Yeah, always.
What did you eat? Like, what was your typical meal? Like, was it just?
We didn't have a farm or anything. We just, back in the Depression days in the 1930s.
And at that time, you were how old? They're like maybe 12 or something.
I was born December 18th, 1926.
So in the Depression, you're maybe 5 years old.
Yeah, I started school, went to school there and everything.
Okay.
But I had a wonderful life, though. We didn't go poor. We lived on the edge of town between 2 railroads, the Pennsylvania Railroad. You cross that and you're in the town. And the Reading Railroad was in front of our front yard. It was freight, but at first it was a passenger train.
Did you live in a house?
Oh yeah, we had our own house. My grandfather built it. It's the last house.
So this is back in the days when you built your own house, kind of.
He was a carpenter. He did that for us because they lived next door. My grandparents, grandmama and grandpapa, Decker. And they built us a house. That house is still in pristine shape.
The house is still there.
Yes, it is. The only thing that is different, they built a little bit more on the back porch. And there's a huge tree in the front yard that it wasn't there when I lived there. Because we moved from there in 1940. The summer of 1940.
So you're like
I was
15.
13.
Okay.
13. Moved to Herville, which is about, I don't know,
Hurtville.
Herville.
Hurtville.
Hurfville, named after the people, the Hurfs. There's a
Okay.
little one, but
Is
it's
that
on
also in-
Dulcie Drive.
That's also in New Jersey.
Yeah, everything's in New Jersey.
So it's like right down the street.
Yeah,
then.
no. So anyway, we moved there, and the only church they had was a Methodist church. So my mother was like a Lutheran Christian, you know.
So at that time, when you were in school, they would have Bible reading in school. They had prayer in school.
Sure we did.
Now,
With the flag and everything, yes, sir.
was it? Were all your peers Christian? Was it rare to have somebody that wasn't a Christian at that time?
I didn't know anything about being a Christian. I did not.
Okay.
They didn't talk about that way in that generation.
Okay.
Not till I moved to Herville, and because we didn't have Methodist churches in Acorn, we had Catholic and the Lutheran and Moravian. They're the only one I really remember.
So
I
those.
didn't go to that.
Okay.
I went to kindergarten in the Lutheran Sunday school building.
Okay.
And I was 5. We walked everywhere we went. Nobody had cars much, although it's on the White Horse Pike. But we didn't have a car. My father was a mechanic, and anything he could do. But I want to get to when I met my first husband, because that's the story what God did.
Okay.
I was raised in a nominal Christian family. They weren't born again Christians. They were churchgoers.
Okay.
Back then. Okay.
Explain that. A churchgoer.
I was a churchgoer, but I wasn't saved.
So it was just something that people did out of traditional.
I loved it.
So it was like more of a traditional thing. Everybody kind of went to church.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not
So it was like
everyone.
so the culture back then was regular people kind of went to church.
The whole town. You knew everybody.
Okay.
You know, back then. Couldn't go anywhere during the war either. I want to get to the point.
Now, how did you meet your first husband? Did you meet him
Thank you.
through an acquaintance,
Thank
or
you.
did you meet him at the?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll tell you.
Okay.
Okay. Now that part I know. Next to the Methodist church in Herville was the parsonage, and then the next, a small building where we had parties and get-togethers. Okay.
Church dance?
Never dancing. No, that wasn't in back then.
No, that's how my grandma.
But we had parties for
Yeah.
Well, my brother went in service on the 11th of November, and the 27th of November we had my youth director, Tom Priest. Such dresses for us girls, because that's all that was left in the town. We're all teenagers. If we give a party for the soldiers who were in the Searchlight cruise. There was one in Deptford, not Deptford, it's right next to it. I can't think of it. But anyway,
So
they had 8 soldiers.
A party to send them away.
No.
Oh.
To entertain them, because they're
Okay.
Searchlight crew. They searched for their planes in our area during
Okay.
the war. There was one there and there was one in Deptford, and I mean, in Richwood, and one in Ewan. They were sort of scattered in the country part. And so he suggested that we girls, well, all teenage girls, will give a party for the eight there, the eight there, and the eight there, soldiers, just to get together, be friendly, because we always wrote to the soldiers. So yeah, we're all for that, And so he said, so he went to each one of those to invite the soldiers to come to this party, just get together, get friendly and everything. And
So 3 different outposts
three different,
came together.
yes, that's
Okay.
right. So only one person would come who volunteered who came. These over here, none of them could come.
So they were invited, but they didn't show up.
So this one it was toward Camden, toward Brookline. People were watching this from New Jersey, know where it was. Anyway, the sergeant said he would come. And when Tom got to them to pick him up, he was the only one what had, he talked a PFC to go take his place to come to this party with these girls, young girls. That's okay. He brought this one person, and all through the party, he was from the South, the deep South. Now he's up here in New Jersey.
Yeah.
But I kept asking him what his name was. I didn't want to be rude, but I could not understand him. The accent was so bad. I would ask him his name and he would say, "Ust," just like that. I'm not exaggerating. And I hated to ask him over and over. But it was embarrassing to me and him too. So Tom said, all right, Joyce, and if you and Peggy, my younger girlfriend, she wasn't allowed to date, but I was, but I didn't have dates. And so you can go back as I take the soldier back to the barracks. If you do the dishes and clean up the party, after the party, we didn't care, Well, he sat in the middle. I still didn't know his name.
During the drive.
Yeah, his accent was so South. Now, colored people have an accent, but not in New Jersey. They've been born and raised there, and they talk like we did, clearly.
Okay.
And so this is unique to me. He kept talking to me, wouldn't pay any attention to Peggy, and kept asking. This is the Lord's record. We didn't know it. I didn't know the Lord. But looking back, I see what he did. So we exchanged names, and we started writing to each other because that's what we did anyway.
So you got the address.
Everything. He wrote first.
Well, he's like a pen pal kind of.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
all during the war we did that.
So you guys,
But
so
don't pre-guess me.
I know, I'm just saying, because people would be familiar with, like, I guess, talking on the phone. So
No
this,
phones.
so in this case, there was no phone, so you had to write a letter now.
Oh, everything was letters. Yeah, we had V-mail. It's a thin tissue paper, shaped like an envelope, folded, red and white stripes around the edge of it. It was V-mail. That went to soldiers.
So you wrote letters to the guy that you could barely understand what he said
No,
because.
I waited. I didn't get his.
Well, he
letter
wrote
yet.
you a letter.
Yeah.
And when you're saying
So
that he had
when
you're saying he had an accent, he had like a country boy accent, or what is
Well,
it?
it's worse than that. I couldn't
Like
understand.
he was from
it.
Louisiana?
No, he's from Georgia. Let me get to that part.
Okay. So he was just like a country boy accent.
Oh, yeah, he was a country boy.
Can you
accent from Georgia.
can you
I did-
mimic the country boy accent? Is there a way that you can explain, like how?
He said his name was Ust.
Well, I mean,
What is
if you were to say like a whole paragraph, like a whole
No,
sentence,
we'll get to that.
my name is Us.
No,
I don't know. I'm just
I'm going forward
Okay.
with a please.
okay.
You stole the punchline. No, you didn't. No. But I have to keep it in my mind or I'll forget it.
Okay.
So the next week I get a letter, a fat letter from, well, I fished through it to see who it's from because I didn't know. Oh, I said, it's Ear Nest. That's his name, Ear Nest, Ernest.
Yeah.
And they wrote all about him. He's from Georgia. Now he had never been anywhere. Cotton picking, farmer, never been anywhere off the farm in Georgia in his life. They moved around a lot. They were sharecroppers, moved around a lot. Every time they moved where there was cotton to pick for somebody else, get money, they would move there. They didn't have furniture like we do. So anyway, he told about himself a little bit in a letter and we corresponded. So he asked for a date and he was stationed up there. He would have to come by bus and come to my town, the main Delsey Drive, and then come down to my place where I was. I was in the middle of the block. And so we set it up. And I asked my parents if I could go. And it wasn't dangerous at all, like it is today. So anyway, he came down to get me for the date and go back to Camden. This is the city where I was working later on. And he said, as he came down, he's got the sergeant's, he's a PFC. He's got the sergeant's coat on his winter. That's not allowed today. His sergeant bribed him and to go with that party, you know. But anyway, he had that coat on. And I introduced him to my parents. And my father, I had a car at that time, an Oldsmobile. He's a mechanic. He never loaned his car to anybody. He didn't have to. He just, you know, but he's a mechanic. But anyway, so he looks at Ernest and he said, do you have a driver's license? Yeah, yes, sir. And my father handed him the keys to his Oldsmobile so we could go on a date and not have to ride the bus there and come back on the bus. I was dumbfounded. Whoa. Neither one of us had a watch. My mother didn't date before she married. They always had groups way back in the 20s, 1920s. Had groups of the teenagers or whatever. They'd go to the dances and everything in their car. And so they didn't pair off, you know. And when I was a teen, they didn't pair off during the war either in my section. No girlfriend, it's all like brother and sister stuff. So anyway, I don't know where I went with that one.
How did you feel during the date?
Oh, I didn't know how to feel. I'm nervous. I thought, what do you do on a date? I couldn't ask mother because she had never dated. And she was very, not prim and proper, but her mother didn't tell her.
You asked your mom how to act on the date or something?
No, because I could, back then.
Now, did you just kind of go, or was it, because if you're writing letters, it's kind of an anticipation kind of thing.
Sure
Right?
is. Sure
It's not like he
is.
just went and picked you up and said, "Hey, let's go." Like this is like took the
Oh, he
couple.
sent me his picture, by the way. He said in that letter, he sent me his picture.
Did you put the picture
Ooh,
up somewhere?
I slept it, well, it was all crumbled up, but I've got it somewhere.
So you
I
like would
did.
post it up somewhere in your room?
No, under my pillow.
You put the picture under your
Oh,
pillow.
so what we did was, I think we went to a movie, had to go to the next town. We didn't have one. And then in my town during the war, and a lot of little places did that.
Went to the
When you're
movies?
on the date with the soldiers and stuff, they had a little space. Well, where I went, between my home road and the next road went at an angle, but they came out to the main, not highway.
What are you saying now?
What I'm trying to say is that there's a little parking place.
Yeah.
There was a ditch or a brick, little creek on that other road.
Okay.
And so we pulled in there, and that's where the other daters went to. And we sat and talked, getting acquainted.
Yeah.
Well, that time I'm trying to understand what he's saying, but I had read the letter. The letter is not written in accent. So that was interesting. But my family are people. You just like to be with people, and
So you
So
you went. You're saying you went to the movies, or you're talking about when you?
yeah, I don't know what it was. It
But
wasn't
you-
Abbott Costello, because that was later.
But you remember parking and talking to him.
Oh yeah, we were there for hours. We didn't know we were supposed to go home. I had no clue. I didn't have a watch.
Was it dark?
Yeah, it was dark when I left.
Huh.
And so now this is a trait of my first husband. He down south, he got engaged to every one of his double first cousins. The girls got engaged with all the girls, because they're all friendly and family stuff.
He almost married his cousins. Is what you're saying?
No, he didn't marry him, didn't give him a ring. He always proposed to them. This is years later when I found all this out.
Okay.
So he proposed to me
On the first date.
Oh yeah, that was him, but I didn't.
On the first date?
Yes. And I said, "What'll my mother think?" I'm thinking, well, it's dark out there.
Proposed to you on the first date.
Yeah, he did that to everybody, to the girls. Yeah, he's real friendly. He wasn't.
So what do you think? He'd like to get married.
But
I'm sorry.
so I know it. When he said that, I said, "What'll my mother think?" And I'm thinking about, I need to get home. Well, it is late, even though we had no watches. So he took me home. I didn't say yes nor I was in shock. But anyway,
Your parents were mad or no?
I went home, and between that time, that first date, I was 2 days before my 16th birthday, and between that and New Year's Day, we had several dates. Daddy always wanted us to come, and talked more about, and wrote back and forth all the time. And I was sent overseas
So
for 2.5 years.
So when he's writing you, is he sharing like more information so you get to know him better and all this?
Oh
other
yeah,
stuff?
the family, really family oriented people. They
Okay.
are. And I wanted to know too. And but he lived in Georgia. I had never been anywhere. So
Yeah, you're still young.
make a long story short, for that Christmas, because my birthday's a week before Christmas, that year, he brought us a 5-pound box of chocolate candy for the family. That's the way he was. He just generous to a fault. And then January, I think we had our last date. It was hard for him to get off because he's working, And then he had to leave from January to another base somewhere and then go overseas. He was overseas 2.5 years. We really got acquainted through letters. All the girls did, and all the fellas got acquainted through letters. They no phones, no nothing. So what I'm getting at is, now I see the Lord in everything. How else could well, he got a man from Georgia who had never been anywhere up in where I live in South Jersey to get married and move to Georgia where I would hear the gospel. I wasn't listening. I was in my teens. I went to Sunday school and church and played piano and all this stuff. But I never heard the way of salvation, didn't even think about it till I got down in Georgia, and that is all. Well, we were married about 2.5 years, stayed up in New Jersey. We got married in New Jersey too.
So New Jersey is where he was
stationed.
Okay.
Yeah, he was stationed there. When he was discharged, he went to he was fighting in Italy.
So he actually went into the war and all that.
Oh yeah, 4.5 years.
Okay.
But he was discharged out of Georgia.
No, I don't expect that he explained like the type of fighting that he did. Did he at all? I mean, it's not usually something people talk about.
He wouldn't talk about it much, except one time we didn't know it because his health was bad. Well, he died of a heart years later. But while I was in Italy, he said he was so tired. He told me this later. So tired, he sitting up against a tree, and a bullet went right over his head. It didn't get him. And
this is World War I.
World War II.
World War II. Okay.
All my brothers were in World War II, except Wally and Larry, the older ones, were in World War II. Buddy was next to me in age. He was between wars, but he joined the paratroopers. They're still in the service line. He became a preacher and pastor. He had a bird and a half.
A bird what?
I said expressions, a bird and a half. So funny and so.
So he had a personality as a preacher.
Yeah, he got the fake leaf personality. My father was a character. The
guy that loaned out his car.
Yeah. So anyway, when he got discharged, the corner store in our town had a phone, and also a Caterpillar phone. Then my friend had a phone, but we didn't have phones. So when he would call for me, he had to call the store, and so I went down, tell me I got a phone call. And he said he's going to be discharged.
He's calling from where?
When he got home. When he got
He's
home.
calling from Georgia.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I got discharged in Georgia, but he wanted me to come down, meet the family. Meanwhile, I've been talking to him. I've been writing letters to his parents and his family, getting to know him, And I'm Yankee. And so I went down. I never traveled in my life by myself. I went by train. He sent the money, government check. They always sent that for me to have money to go by train down to Atlanta, and they would meet me there, his family.
No, you said that you heard, like, I guess,
This is before we got
you
married.
heard a powerful gospel in Georgia is what you're saying.
I haven't got there yet. I'm on my
Okay.
way to.
Now, is
Georgia.
there any spiritual warfare going on at this time? Like,
I don't know. I just, that's not on my mind just yet.
Okay. Like, there's no doubts or anything like that, like, you know?
Oh, you mean what, the gospel down in
No,
Georgia?
I'm trying to say, in your mind, is there spiritual warfare at all? Or is everything just like, you're kind of just going with it, like,
No.
do you have any,
Don't get me.
do you have
Please
any
don't get me off
worries or
this.
anything, or is there any anxieties that's kind of telling you not to go to Georgia or something?
No, I didn't know I wasn't
Oh,
close
okay.
to the Lord. Oh, I bet, no, I wasn't close to the Lord.
No, what I'm saying
I was
is,
just a churchgoer.
what I'm saying is, do you feel like that maybe the enemy, Satan or anything, was like trying to get you to not go?
I wouldn't have known it.
Okay, okay,
No way, I was going.
okay.
And my parents, I'm the only girl, I'm the oldest girl rather. And the brothers had left for service, and I'm the next to leave the home, you know. But I went down south for 2 weeks. The train was in Atlanta, and the family's going clans to. This is a big business company. It's big business, you know. They want to be in on the sea who this Yankee is and all this, you know.
The
it's gonna
Yankee.
be-
You're considered as a Yankee.
I am. I'm the first Yankee in Swafford family. And
Okay.
little Evelyn, when I moved later,
You're a
anyway,
Yankee.
I met the family. I stayed down there 2 weeks and got acquainted with them. And we came back up to New Jersey and got married August 24th, 1945. And then we lived in, stayed with Mother and Daddy for as long as Daddy could stand us.
Who's this?
Daddy, my father. And
So you guys lived in,
we moved into the next town.
you guys lived in New Jersey, is what you're saying?
Always, yeah.
Okay,
We got married in New Jersey.
okay.
And we stayed there for about a year and a half. He was so homesick. They're all homebodies. All those the Swaffords are
Oh, yeah,
homebodies.
he's from Georgia and he's living in New
Oh,
Jersey.
he was so homesick. He'd been away for 4.5 years. I didn't care. He said, let's go home.
How did he
I was a guy who was game. I said, yeah, you know, I married him. I'm going to stay with him. That time we had Evelyn and we had Janice, the one here.
the one that you live by?
And Evelyn, Janice was 3 months old, and Evelyn was about a year and 9 months old when we moved to Georgia in a coupe.
And the coupe was in,
Took the grumble seat out and
that's a car.
and had furniture in your car.
Okay,
You know,
I don't know.
No, I'll explain to you. And with a potty chair hanging on the bumper, all the way from.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I got pictures to prove it. And my kids razzed me. How we used to live there too. So anyway, then after the 2 weeks were up, we came up to New Jersey, got married, and stayed up here for about a couple of months. And then.
Okay, so you're saying that you
Yeah.
guys, okay, so you're saying that you guys lived in New Jersey, then you moved back to Georgia.
Yeah.
And when you're mentioning the car, is that because they didn't really have highways back then?
That was my brother's car when I was killed as a coupe. Well, one
But,
seat.
but they didn't really have, did they have highways back then?
No.
Was it a dirt road or?
Dirt, it was either clay or mud. Georgia.
That's why you're mentioning the fact that you drove back, because it's kind of like, I mean, now we just drive and it's no big deal. But back then it was like a big deal to drive because,
Well, I first remember I went down by train by myself. I
okay,
stayed down 2 weeks to meet the family and all that. And
so it's two
he came back up to New Jersey
on train.
with me. Yeah, on a train, Silver
Okay.
Liner. And he knew his way around though. Being in service, he was stationed.
He was a little
places.
familiar with New Jersey a little bit.
No, with traveling, I guess.
Huh.
So he, then we got married in the Hereford church, the Methodist church. Just a quiet wedding because my brother had been killed a few months before that. And then we stayed for a couple of months, and then we moved to Georgia. With the 2 babies.
And at this time, this is before you're a born again Christian.
Yes.
So
I'm
at
going
this
down
time,
south to get born, I guess.
so you have 2 kids and you're married for how long?
We married in August, and we went down the following February to Georgia to stay, to live.
So you had been married for 3-4 years. So.
No, months.
But you,
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. After we married,
you went back in the car.
I skipped the whole place where my 2 girls were born in New Jersey. Yeah, that's why he was so homesick. It's been 70-some years ago. So I finally got to Georgia with the babies, and we were the night we got there, which is extremely unusual. Our car was frozen over with ice. Georgia. It was frozen. We couldn't get in the car. We were in the house. And good grief. And my mother would write back and forth, well, he was sick on the way to Georgia. So as soon as we got there, the doctor came to the house in the country. It's 5 miles out of the town of Douglasville. He came to the house and he had gallstones. Every one of the Swaffords have had gallstones because they raised hogs, they ate the lard, and so the doctor just stood in the doorway and said what was the matter with him. He was in the bed. So off to the hospital, and that was in March. And when he got out, we always stayed in that. The Swaffords had built themselves a home and bought all that property up to a country church up here. It had 2 sharecropper houses on that property that are built for animals, I think. But I didn't care. You could see through the floor, just barely stuck together. No wallboard, no like that. It's just the outside shell of these houses, and a door, 2 rooms, and the center place was big enough for put a crib in it. I didn't care though. I was with my husband, and I was adventurous, like Shirley. So then his parents went to a church in Macedonia. It's an old-fashioned church where they sing sacred harp music, no notes. It's all letters, the do, re, mi, so like that, do, re, mi, so that way. It's different. They don't do it anymore. It's died out. Janice got a tape of them singing like that. Well, that church was way off somewhere, and they Well, the whole family would go like the third Sunday of the month. And
So the
that's-
church was far away, is what you're saying?
that little, not the church that was on the property where we were, Central Baptist. We didn't go there. That was a Baptist church, and they didn't go to that. Theirs was more old fashioned, old timey
Okay,
country stuff, and been doing it for years. They went there. So we went there, but this one Sunday, my parents had given me a baby carriage, so I had both girls in it, both babies in it, and I wanted to go to Mother Swafford's house because everybody gathered there. Have to go up to the church and down the next road, or go through the pasture. No way was I going through the pasture because it has snakes in it. So I'm pushing the babies.
oh, so you're walking. all
Yeah,
the way, yeah.
you walked over. And I'm pushing the babies around. But when I came up to the back of the church, I heard the kids singing. I was so homesick because I did not miss a Sunday of Sunday school, no matter where I went. I got those long pins, the guy. And so Daddy Swafford, my father-in-law, I either got not feeling well or something, and he said, "Well, let's try this one. This church here is right here. This church, Baptist church." So he went and he enjoyed it. So we went with him, and that's all you hear. You gotta get saved. You gotta get saved.
This was the church that was right there the whole time.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And just a tiny little church. So so from 1948, it took me 2 years to get started in that church because they were always going to the other churches when we went with them, the family. And they preached and never under an hour and a half, and saying the same thing over and over. I got bored. I couldn't hear it. But when you got in that church,
So they would preach for 90 minutes or so?
or so,
Wow.
because it was all day meeting, all day
Wow.
meeting.
Not like church now where you
Yeah.
just go in there for like preach
I-
for like 30 minutes
I
maybe.
know it.
And everybody's like looking at their watch. like,
Yeah, but and the piano player there in that church sang alto through the whole songs. Well, I'm alto, so I learned the songs that she was playing. I never heard of them. They're the old-fashioned good ones, So every Sunday I would go. I sit in the back because when they gave the altar call, I was afraid that they would call me to go up. The Spirit was dealing with me, but I didn't know it at that time. And so this one Sunday, we had revival, and it was on a Sunday. A visiting preacher came and was preaching on hell and fire and all this other stuff. That never bothered me. I just, the Lord had me hear how to be born again, because I never heard that expression in any of the other churches. And that Sunday night, it was crowded. I held about 50 people. And Joanne was a baby. And Janice, that's all I had was Joanne and Janice. Well, we drove our car up there at that time. We had a Pontiac. And so Joanne started crying when we gave the invitation. Janice went with her daddy across the aisle. He never would sit with her because I'd nudge him. He always went to sleep. He had something going with his heart, I guess. later on, we figured out, he could sleep standing up. I'm not kidding you, don't have to hold him. It was just, but anyway, Janice was with him. And I had to take a Joanne, change her diaper. When I came back in, the invitation was over with. Okay, so that was a Sunday. Monday, I'm thinking, I am going to go up and get saved. By that time, I understood a lot more about it. I said to myself, I don't care. I don't care if it hairlips the whole county. I am going, and I'm going to be there. So the next night we went, because we always went. Summertime always had revival. And I'm geared up to go up front, not hearing anything being preached. Well, several members of our family, cousins and stuff, young ones, went up, they got saved. Well, Janice was crying because she hears all this excitement, crying. People are happy because they got saved. And I didn't go up, what was it? It was on a Tuesday night then. The revival's still going on. I don't know a word they said. Or when that invitation came, I had Joanne. I don't care who's here. I passed Joanne to whoever was sitting next to me on this side, and I went up. And Ernest started to go up. He was still sitting on the other side. And Janice was crying again for all the excitement. She didn't know what was going on. She was only 2 years old, 3 years old maybe. And I went up and I got saved. I knew it. And but he had to go back and tend to her. Well, the next morning, he was a jokester anyway. The next morning we ate breakfast at home on that where we were. And he comes up, he said, I guess you know that you can't, this means you can't go to the shower anymore. They were the movies. That's why he's teasing me. He said, you can't go to the shower anymore. Mm-hmm. And I said, I don't care what, So then that night, he went up and gave his testimony as he got saved the night before. I said, you believe you. So we got saved July 25th, 1950. And August the 13th, we were both baptized and a whole bunch of other sophomores.
The whole family.
One became a preacher. One dedicated himself as a deacon and in future times. And they all followed the Lord ever since then. It's awesome. When we go to reunions.
And they used to be going to the wrong church before that. That's what you're saying, right? No, they used to go to a church down way on the other side.
Yes, yeah,
And so just because they just said, let's just go to this close by one.
Yeah, because I think the kids, some of my nieces lived right close by, they also lived close by the home front thing. But they always went where Daddy Swafford.
So it's because of the elder went.
Yeah.
And everybody followed.
But they liked the Sunday school so much. See, didn't have Sunday school in these other churches. But they did it, Central Baptist.
The small church.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So we got saved, man. He was sick off and on all the time. But he would go uptown.
At what age is he now?
He died when he was 33. I'm 36.
Wow.
And it was in 1955.
5 years after he got saved.
November the 3rd. And that.
Wow, he's young.
Now, November the 2nd, 1975, I met Carl
Okay, so you said 1955 and then you were single for 20 years?
With 4 kids.
Okay.
I had all my children. not Evelyn, she beat us to heaven, but the others four, and raised up in New Jersey. I stayed in Georgia about 3 years after he died, not knowing that my parents were worried about me. I never crossed my mind. And I went up for my Larry. Oh yeah, my brother was killed on a motorcycle in 1958, and my other brother flew me up Easter. Flew me up. My first plane ride, and I'm booked ever since. But it flew me up for the funeral, and then that's when they were trying to find a place for me to live in, move back up to New Jersey with the children. I loved Georgia after I picked cotton. I hated it, and because your fingers are all bleeding. But that was the only thing. I figured, this is my husband. I love it, and I enjoyed adventure back then. I really did. But it was awesome. So I moved back up to Georgia, Pittman, where I am now. Almost, it was a neighboring town.
1958.
Yeah, he was Larry. Larry was killed. He played accordion in a little band. He had 4 guys, and now the brother.
This is your other brother.
Wally was born in 1923. 1925, Larry was born.
So the first one,
and then
so the first one you said died in the war.
That's Wally.
Second one died
Was killed
in his mid-30s. Maybe 40
I
years
don't
old.
know. I don't know if he was saved or not. He rejected it so much because of my next brother, younger than me, was a pastor, a preacher. You'd loved it, and he would witness to Larry all the time.
Uh-huh.
And Larry just laugh him off, and but he kept being persistent. I doubt very much if he made a professional before, because I don't know. I'll find out when I get to heaven. And then Buddy was pastor of
Somewhere in New Jersey.
yeah, in Jersey, but not the one in Herfield, Methodist. We teased him about that, because we're Baptist. I'll say Baptist.
But they were all different back then, right?
Oh yeah.
Like the Methodist was
Yes.
different. Now Methodist is kind of like
Terrible.
it's like a progressive church or something, right?
Yeah, it's a shame.
Huh. So it's totally different back then.
Oh yeah. But our Baptist churches have not changed.
Yeah.
And the ones that help support me and Carl with our prison ministry in South Carolina, they've never changed. They're even closer to the Lord. I have Christian school, and they still send support money, but I quit the sending out the Bible lessons and stuff. Carl and I would buy Bible courses, lessons from Source of Light in Madison, Georgia, all King James version.
Yeah.
And I used to handle all the children's lessons as through adults, way too much. $6,000 a year when we first started was down we were in South Carolina when we first got into that. It was just too much. And so when I moved back up to New Jersey, I since we have a prison ministry, that's what we focused on. So I only got adult lessons for prisoners. We would buy the lessons, and send them free. That's how the ministry goes. And send them out. They would answer the questions. I would grade them and send them the next book. And I love that.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Hold on,
Yeah,
let
it
me
is.
see if I can pause this thing. Okay, let's go ahead and end it.
Okay. When I moved back up to New Jersey with the children, I lived near my parents. I lived in Pittman Grove, and every one of my children got saved different times, either through Halawasa or the church or Bible lessons. We always had Bible lessons and things. And now we're working on the grandkids.
Now, when your kids were getting saved, like, would you say that you prayed for these kids, or you led them to the Lord directly?
Both. Because
So what I'm saying is it possible that you were praying for them and then somehow or another through somebody else they got saved?
I don't think.
You can't remember anybody like that?
Holocaust. What we did was on school days, well, every day when I was in Pittman, I'll say on a school day because it's easier. Janice, before Janice and Joanne went to school, because they went first in Pittman, you walked to school. Jack and Connie were waiting for when they go to their school, their lower grades in Pittman. We had a book called Little Visits with God.
So you would do like a Bible study before school?
For children. It's a little devotional for children. And then ask for questions afterwards, sort of like these lessons.
So even though,
and I want to finish that.
Okay.
And then they had questions after it, and they answered it. And then I would send them, let them go Camp Halawasa. Several of them were saved.
Christian camp or something.
God clinched it. Yeah.
So they would go to these Christian camps.
Oh yeah, I was usually one of the house mothers or mother at Halawasa.
And this is during the 50s, maybe you're saying?
No, 60s. We moved back to New Jersey in July or June or July of 59. 4 years after, 3.5 years after.
Yeah.
Ernest died.
55, and then yeah.
And then and I was doing a Bible study by Bible Fellowship. It was right here in Los Angeles. I have all their books. They're tract size. Stick them in your pocket, study. And I never had to answer. You don't answer questions like you do here. And don't get graded. But every week, but this is way back in the 60s, there was a pink slip of paper to make yourself accountable, just between me and the Lord. But I said to see if I'm making progress. Because you prayed 3 times, it's very structured, but for me, it was good. You learn a verse completely and go over and over it the first day. The second day, you say it one time and learn another verse.
And this is what you did with your kids.
And I shared it with them.
So your kids got saved, what, as teenagers?
No, they're kids.
And they never strayed.
Not really, because we always went to Sunday school church.
Okay.
And we knew everybody there. They tell on each other. But I praise the Lord. Now that they're all grown and they are grandparents
Yeah,
themselves,
yeah.
it's awesome. I can't believe they're my kids.
Yeah, your daughter's gotta be what, like in her 70 years old?
Let me, I don't want to say that on here. She can't get Yes, she's my oldest now. She'll be 75 and married 55 years
Wow,
this year. And Joanne just turned 72, 3 days older than, a month to the day older than Mary Ann. And
Mary Ann?
Connie is 3 days.
Oh, you mean Shirley's older sister? Is that, wait,
Oh,
what's
no,
that
wait.
one?
Shirley and my daughter,
Okay,
Joanne,
Joanne.
and she's in Georgia.
So they were all older than Carl's kids.
Yeah, no, wait a minute. Mary Ann is a month to the day older than my daughter Joanne. No kin in there. This Joanne's my daughter.
Yeah,
This is
Mary Ann is Shirley's older sister, right? Okay,
yeah,
that's what I said.
yes. Then in October, the 27th, my Connie was 69.
Yeah,
And Shirley on the 30th of October was 69.
so you guys had,
Right together.
so you guys had kids that were the same age.
Yeah,
So,
I had more.
so Joanne and Mary Ann were the same age. Did I get that right?
Yes, and Shirley and Connie, my Connie, are the same age.
And they have
3
like
days
similar,
apart.
they all have similar names.
Yeah,
Shirley and Connie and Joanne and Mary Ann.
yeah.
That's
And
interesting.
then Jack is my baby. He's 66. He'll be 67.
Okay,
He's the one that does taxes.
okay.
They're all professionals. My
Well,
kids
he's
are.
not a baby now, he's 66.
No, and he doesn't like to be reminded, this is my baby. You don't do that to him.
Yeah,
And they're all brilliant. They got all their education. They don't pay for all the extra vocation.
so when you met,
Fly by themselves.
so when you met Carl, how old were your kids?
I married him in 76.
So your kids are in their mid-20s at that time.
I imagine, because Janice is 20 years younger than me. I had her when I was Evelyn. I was.
So your kids were
19.
already grown, and his kids were already grown.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was really nice because they were happy. All my kids were happily married or off or still going to college or something. But they all paid for their education themselves. I had no money. Jack always says, "You don't ask mama for money. Jen got it." So they all helped me. They all helped me. It's awesome.
Was there anything else you wanted to say?
No, thank you.
That's it?
Yeah. I'm 95 and a half, and I got one more to tell you, but I'll save you because I'm doing that.
All right, well, praise the Lord.
These are awesome.